Hello, and welcome to the Mirrored Muse podcast, a sanctuary for the soul and a spark for the revolutionary spirit, where our truth is always reflected, our radiance remembered, and our spirit set free. I'm your host, Whitney Amber, and together we'll journey into the depths of what it means to awaken, embody, and expand as the muse of our own life. Through soulful storytelling, raw reflections, guided practices, and revolutionary conversations, this podcast is here to truly meet you in your own becoming. So let's take a deep breath, soften our edges. It's time to step into the mirror. This is your invitation to rise. Hey, love, welcome back to another episode of The Mirrored Muse. I'm your host, Whitney Amber, and today I want to talk about my personal remix and the 2025 take on Eat, Pray, Love. I'm sure most of you have seen the movie. If you haven't, go to Netflix, Amazon Prime, ASAP, watch this beautiful movie. Who doesn't love an absolute stunning film moment with Julia Roberts, the one and only? But this episode is the Whitney edit, okay? Reframed, rewritten, reimagined in the realest life experience. And this is based on my travel journey. That is, actively unfolding. So it's classic, unexpected, and I am coining it as the sequel to Eat, Pray, Love. But in this wit edit, I'm also calling this sequel Release, Rewrite, Receive. Now, for those of you just tuning in, I'm referencing my travel journey that began as a result of a few things. First, leaving the corporate world back literally almost a year ago to the date, followed by the universe serving me a major pivot in the plan that I had created for myself, and finally receiving just a clear, intuitive prompt that told me, Whitney, just get to Bali. So this all began in March of 2025, which is when I departed from the US. And now, obviously, it's August 2025, so 5 months later. And I finally feel ready to dive into the deets of all of this. It feels vulnerable, to say the least, as I share experiences that have, to be honest, completely transformed my life in so many ways, in who I am, how I show up in the world, and the impact I want to bring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this journey has, even in ways I didn't realize were possible, it has changed me, because it's not like most women I know or knew were talking about the things that I have experienced along this path. So here we go. We're going to just get in it. Okay. So I didn't know then being in March, that each city would hold a lesson for me. I didn't even know where I was going after Bali. But what has played out is Bali asked me to release. Spain invited me to rewrite. And Paris is teaching me how to receive. Yes, hence the name. So I do just want to quickly explain. I'm breaking this into two parts. So the first part, we're only talking about Bali. I spent 2.5 months there, right? So we have all the things to talk about, and it will more than fill the time. So, and I'm just picking the highlight experiences to share with you. So yeah, so much happened. It was very beautiful. And so this episode is part one. Part two I'm going to combine Spain and Paris. And this is not any type of 3-step method, but just a true living rhythm that I think often shows up when we're stepping into the unknown. But I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just going to invite you into this conversation. And You can feel through it and, have your own opinions, thoughts, and ideas. Okay, part one, Bali. Release. That is the whole theme behind this location. And also, I do want to mention that so I had my astrocartography read back in, I believe it was May of 2024. So, maybe for those of you who aren't familiar, astrocartography is basically taking our individual astrological birth chart and overlaying that across the world map. I follow an account on Instagram, highly, highly recommend. It's called The Cosmic Latte. And she used to be based out of Chicago. I think she lives in New York now. 10 out of 10. I cannot recommend enough. All of her products, I've been following her for 3 years now. Anyway, I felt called to have her read my astrocartography. And come to find out, no wonder Bali had been calling me for 2-ish years, maybe a little bit longer. When I received my reading back, my moon line runs right through the middle of Ubud and Canggu. So, for those of you who kind of understand some astrology, you know what that means. But basically, my moon line is one of the major planetary lines, and based on what lines run through where can kind of shape what kind of experience or energy you may encounter while traveling there. So mine proved to be very spot on. Moon typically representing your inner emotional world. And so I spent most of my time in Ubud. I was in Bali for 2.5 months, like I said. And the whole theme around this that I did not know, but now I do, being on the other side of it, is release. So, just to provide some context why I chose Bali, I didn't really choose Bali. Bali kind of chose me, but we'll dive into that. And I want to let you in on my whole intention of this travel to kind of set the stage. So, I honestly had no clue what to expect. Of course, I had seen the movie, but it doesn't really dive into the culture of Bali. It dives more into um, the experience of Elizabeth Gilbert, who is the author of the book Eat, Pray, Love. Julia Roberts just happens to play her character. And fell in love with the movie. I think I seen it for the first time in 2023. I've probably seen it at least 17 times since then. Watched it on the plane ride to Bali, as one should. I mean, come on. And actually, I had only heard of Bali through that movie. So, was familiar with the movie, but again, it just didn't provide a whole lot of context. So, I want to say I didn't have any expectations. All I knew in that moment was that when I booked the trip was that my soul was starving to create meaningful work that had been calling me for at least those 2+ years. So my primary intention was to really spend time meditating and being present just to receive the insight and or download, i.e. the details of what this thing is that I was to create. And so I wanted to receive the vision, and I also wanted to begin creating it. Full stop. This was my goal. Again, I had just quit my job. My life had been turned upside down in some sort of ways. And yeah, I was like, now it's time. I want to spend time and figure this out. So that I knew for sure. I also knew that I just wanted to see elephants. I know it's super random, but the elephants were calling me for real. Like, I just needed to be around them. I wanted to touch an elephant and just, I don't know, it was a thing. Which I did, don't worry. Also, I guess I did have some expectations subconsciously, but for the most part, I thought, I don't know, maybe I'd spend most days at the beach, meet the love of my life, and that would help shape maybe the rest of my travel and make more sense as to why I felt this calling to move somewhere new. I don't know. And that move had been calling me for a while. So that's just the narrative I had created to justify it. And I had a deep knowing that when I left, and I even told my friend this at the time, I was like, friend, I have a strong feeling that two things are waiting for me on the other side of all this, whatever unfolds. One being love, and two, the second thing being just a whole new way of showing up and being in the world. And so these are, should I say, they're looking very positive in the development as to where we're at right now. So again, it's still unfolding, but those things I just knew, I felt it. What I didn't know, okay, is Bali would force me to sit in front of this. I'm metaphorically speaking, but it felt so real. But being in Bali really forced me to sit in front of this full body mirror, completely naked, for the full 2.5 months, and just fully look at her. And not just look at her being me, but seeing me, all of me, the light and the shadows. I mean, and two, just to be very transparent, while I was in Bali, I was the heaviest weight I think I've ever been in my life. So this very full version of myself, and sitting in that and feeling her and the discomfort, the insecurities, the fear, the love, and the dreams, the limiting beliefs, the family patterns, all of it. I mean, she really forced me to get honest with myself about where I had been and where I'm headed, what I was calling in, being the work, the love, the dream, and my health. It was intense. I'm not going to lie. There's no masking the fact, but so necessary. And when I was living in Chicago, I very much felt this expiration date of my old life quickly approaching. Literally, from night one of arriving in Chicago from the move, it felt like a death. That sounds dramatic, but it's really what it felt like. It felt like a mourning process had begun. And that's a whole other story and podcast episode for another time. But my body knew. My intuition knew. I I just didn't have the details, and I didn't really know what it all meant or was going to shape up to be. So fast forward 8 months, when I left at 3 a.m. that morning in March in Chicago, I knew I was closing a door. I knew it. I could feel it. I just didn't realize it was, the main entrance to my old life. And Bali it's really difficult to put into words, but I'm going to try my absolute best to articulate my experience the way I feel it and the way that I navigated it. So I do just need to let it be known how hysterical of me for even remotely thinking that this place would serve me in any way similar to Julia Roberts in the movie Eat, Pray, Love. I mean, she found the love of her life, and well, same, but much less handsome Spanish entrepreneur for me, and more of, well, just me, myself. That was it. I mean, I was served a massive dose of self love, which is the most beautiful, necessary, and foundational component to everything in life. Sure, I get it. That is facts. But come on. I obviously wanted the glamorous bump into a stranger on a bicycle who would later confess his love to me kind of moment. Okay? Let a girl dream. Like I wanted that. And well, couldn't have been further from my experience. But here we are. And maybe that movie-esque, romanticized version of Bali didn't happen, but what was delivered is a very necessary releasing. So, everything that we're going to talk about in the next few minutes, just keep in mind the theme around this location was releasing. And I'm not just going to focus on the releasing, because when we release, we are making space for new, and the new experience were absolutely met as well. So we're going to have both and all the above. But so what release means in this context of Bali for me was letting go of relationships, timelines, and old identities that just no longer fit. Letting go of the fear of doing things differently, and for using my voice to say what I really feel is true. Letting go of suppressed emotions that were deeply trapped within my body and were honestly subconsciously shaping my behavior and keeping me stuck on this loop of old patterns, some patterns that weren't even mine. It's wild. And you'll never guess the emotions. Well, the main emotion that came up: anger. I know, crazy, wild. Whitney, she's so happy. She's so bubbly all the time. Trust me, I get it. I was in complete denial as well, and we'll talk about it later. But yeah, anger. Also, this release involved a lot of familial and societal ideas, expectations, limiting beliefs regarding success, money, love, expression, and freedom. It involved letting go of sexual assault wounds and trauma that not only I had experienced personally, but also I feel deeply were passed down from the generations of women before me in my family. And this specifically created a serious armor around my heart that I can now not see, which made it impossible to soften. I also went through this releasing and just learning to be in the moment without clutching at what's leaving, just like loosening the grip, right? And accepting what's happening. And even in the uncertainty, learning that there is safety in letting go of the grip. Sometimes we do ourselves the most harm by letting the white knuckles show and trying to hold things that we're no longer, or maybe even we're never meant to hold on to. Also, the peace and presence gained in the releasing process. Like, these things far outweigh the temporary pain that is endured on an energetic, emotional, and or physical level, for sure. The peace and presence, it's just, it kind of reminds me, I've never had a baby, but my sister has, and several of my friends have, and they always say, I can't imagine life now before, their baby boy or baby girl. And this is kind of what it reminds me of, is now having released these things, it's hard to, since they were truly let go of and released, like it's hard for me to go back into, whether it be mindsets or experience, like it's a whole full body shift that takes place. So now I truly understand why some people choose to never dive into the healing on an individual level, and for sure the generational level and the pain that we carry in that regard. Like, I do. 100% full stop. I get it now. But also, like now I know that without Bali and the releasing, there would be no Paris and receiving. So it's both and with the the bruising comes the beauty. Truly. I know that sounds cliche, but I'm living it. It's proving to be true in my life experience. And this is why I want to share with you the things that have unfolded and the things that I have extracted and have learned, will continue to learn and relearn, I'm sure. So now that we've set the stage, provided a little context for you, I have done my absolute best in just providing the three main experiences that I want to share with you regarding my time in Bali. These are the ones that I don't know that I'll ever be able to separate from Bali. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe time and distance can allow me to alchemize some of it. I don't know, but these are pivotal, monumental encounters, experiences that completely shifted core parts of me. So the first being goddess retreats, second, Myra Penaloza, and last but certainly not least is Tantra. So first, we have goddess retreats. So I remember whenever I had booked my flight and I had a couple days before I was leaving. I didn't really plan at all this trip, and I had heard enough from different people. That's pretty common for Bali. People just kind of show up, you kind of wing the whole thing, and it's fine. It's safe to do that, very normal. So that was very much my MO. But I was talking to some friends who were giving me some advice and things that they loved, etc. And one thing that I was advised to do was to just sign up for a retreat pretty early on in my travel, and it's the best thing I could have done. So for those of you who may look to go to Bali by yourself, I would tell you the same and pass on the same advice. Book a retreat. There's all kinds of retreats there. Book something that resonates with you. This is an amazing way to meet friends and is exactly what started to get me connected, meeting amazing humans from all around the world. So the one thing that I booked or planned ahead of time was goddess retreats. So they have two locations. Their OG location was in Canggu. I didn't really feel called to that area, so I booked the Ubud retreat. And the letting go in this experience was mostly centered around my old identity and all the versions of Whitney that had existed up until this point, and the way that she has and would show up in the world. All of that, it was very clear, was coming up to be let go because that was changing and evolving. And so I decided to get to Bali a few days prior so that I could kind of adjust to the time zone. Thank God, I was jet lagged AF. And so fast forward, it's the day that the guys come in to pick me up to transport me to the retreat. I was so nervous, knowing that it was an all women's retreat. Yeah, I don't know. I was a little nervous. So I hop in, the driver loads my stuff. So sweet. The people there are amazing. And he tells me, like, okay, Whitney, there's going to be one more woman that we're going to pick up along the way. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I felt nervous, which typically isn't a thing. So we're driving along, we roll up, and the door opens. It honestly felt like very much like the like bachelorette situation, right? So anyways, the door opens and this beautiful woman who is originally from South Africa, living in Dubai. Her name's Ingrid. I adore her. She hops into the car next to me we started off as total strangers, and just her energy and our conversation within minutes, something just felt familiar. Honest to God, I was like, wow, okay. And then that allowed me to feel less nervous and kind of soften back into the curiosity of it all, right? Um, so we were chit chatting the whole way there. And by the time we arrived, oh my God, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to learn more about this woman and just like spend time and hang out with her. Like what is this week going to hold for me? I don't know. I'd never done a retreat like this, and doing it by myself really, honestly, was, I think, the most beautiful way to do it and to really lean into just learning about all kinds of life experiences from these women that I was about to meet. So we roll up and we meet the hostess team. Oh my God, the host team in Ubud with Goddess Retreats. Angels, I swear. Desi and IU, shout out to my homies. Desi is for sure my Bali mom. And it was just from the start. And I mentioned this in last week's episode. I would see the number 313, which to me signified the date of March 13th. And March 13th is the day that I checked into this retreat. So I meet these women, and Desi, I was getting settled in my room, and she popped in to get some more details for my intake form and my schedule for the week. And just immediately we went from asking intake information to talking about like relationships and why I was in Bali and like real just like life things. We bonded immediately. And so I'll never forget, I snapped our photo, posted something to my story real quick because I had committed to myself unplugging from social media and from my phone and all of that for the whole week. So, but I remember specifically, I was like, oh, this feels really special. I snap our photo and post it to my story. And that was just the beginning. The wisdom of these women from all across the world, all walks of life, all ages, all shapes, size, like all kinds of woman was represented. It was so beautiful. And the wisdom they hold, and just, oh, I think I had forgotten what it felt like to be surrounded and to gather in this feminine energy and just be like, oh, we didn't leave our robes for a week, with the exception of those of us who trekked Mount Batur. We'll get to that in a second. But anyways, it was just beautiful. It felt so good. It felt like a breath of fresh air. And I realized I really think the wisdom that women seek is the very wisdom our own bodies hold. But it's hard, especially in America, to kind of unplug from distraction, noise, and external advice, opinions, conversations to even begin to tap into our own body wisdom, our own voice and knowing, right? And so I started to notice this immediately, and how powerful it was to just observe and sit in the conversations, not even actively participate or share, but just listen to these women and what they were going through or what they had gone through and the dreams that they hold. And yeah. And then I begin to notice, so the theme of mirror really began to, it just was everywhere. It was absolutely everywhere. And the amount of beauty that I would see in all of these women, and maybe they did or didn't see it in themselves, but I couldn't unsee it. This idea of mirroring just followed me everywhere. And along with this theme or idea comes radiance. and embracing our shine and outgrowing small spaces that I no longer fit in. And not only outgrowing small spaces, but relationships, friendships, boxes, identities, titles, and beliefs. And then I signed up for this uh, batik painting class. And all of a sudden, I'm in this, it was all day. It's a very meticulous, beautiful process of painting that really taught me patience and forced me to I had to be patient with myself. I mean, it was a full day's activity. And with that, I kind of go through this process of battling perfectionism, but I'm also getting to play and be in this art space that I don't think would put myself in at all. And so I start to really explore all of these things and in a completely foreign land, and which was the beauty of it. And then I signed up for the Mount Batur hike, which, oh my God, guys, I don't know this. So this is the second volcano hike I've done in my life. The first was in Hawaii. And I don't know why I feel drawn to this. I don't, but here we are, signed up for it. And in this experience, a group of us women leave early to trek this volcanic mountain. And in this experience, life really was teaching me that I don't always have to be or need to be the leader, that it's okay to bring up the rear sometimes and to be supported by others. And to receive that support from others and not get defensive or push it away and feel less than. And it was a real ego death, I'm not going to lie. And thank God for Jill, this woman who just super active, super fit, a beautiful soul, coached me the whole way up this mountain. Like, Jill, I don't know if you'll ever listen to this podcast, and I told you then, I've got to say it again. Like, thank you. Thank you. This woman, without her, I truly think I would have laid down on the side of the mountain and I would have been there till everyone came back. So it really reminded me of the power that comes with being surrounded by genuinely supportive women, encouraging women. And these are just a handful of experiences that I did in my first week of the retreat. It was so powerful, and it filled me up so much that I signed up for a second week. And so, I in both weeks, honestly, this whole theme of letting go of the old identity started to really take form. And so there was a woman there who I absolutely adore. Her name is Bronwyn. And y'all know who Mamu is. She is my biggest angel and supporter, guide through, I think, the rest of my days here. But I arrived the first week of the goddess retreat, and I get settled in. We come underneath the main pavilion, and I see this woman who resembles Mamu so much. So much. It's wild. And that just completely moved me. And this isn't really something that you share with someone, like, oh, hey, by the way, I just have to tell you that you deeply resemble my grandmother who passed, but who is my biggest angel. Like, it just, that can get tricky. And like, how would I receive that information? I don't know. So anyway, the reason I bring this up is I noticed that for first thing, and it really made me feel hugged, and I could feel Mamu's presence so near, which was important to me in the beginning of this journey. So by the end of the week, Bronwyn, after several conversations of women coming up to me being like, Whitney, oh my God, like, I want to hear more about this experience in your life, or you have such great energy, and just really reflecting back to me my own essence that I don't think I had ever really taken the time to look at. Again, this full body mirror began immediately upon arrival in Bali with these women. And they're not just telling me who I am, but they're really reflecting back to me these different parts that either were suppressed, I kind of shrunk or made small for whatever reason. And I slowly began to be able to receive and hear and accept what they were saying because it felt true in my body. Not just accepting it because it sounded good. No, like it resonated. And so it was the day before the last day, and we had just had brunch. Bronwyn and I were sitting there chatting with a couple other women. The other women walked away, and she turns next to me and she was like, Whitney, do you not see the magnetism? You're a magnet. People want to sit with you and share space and energy and their time with you. They want to hear from you and they want to share with you. Like, she was like, do you see this about yourself? And after the first 6 days had passed, I was like, Bronwyn, thank you for sharing this with me because I'm actually starting to see it. And I was like, it sounds crazy, but I just feel like this whole experience has just been a big fat mirror, and I can't get out from in front of this mirror. And she was like, Whitney, please stay in front of this mirror. She was like, I can't wait to see what unfolds. And that moment for me, it felt special then, but I don't think I knew the significance and the foreshadowing. Maybe it felt like she just kind of opened the door for everything else to unfold. So that was such a beautiful moment. And then Ingrid and I, oh my God, we shared so many conversations, and we had a floating breakfast in the pool one morning. And she's sharing her story, I'm sharing my story. But listening to her, I just knew what dropped in was, oh my God, she's sharing with me parts of my future self, of this future life that I see myself living with my person. Like, it just dropped in listening to everything she was sharing. And so I share these things because I think a lot of times the universe speaks to us through other humans. I mean, all the time this happens, but are we aware enough to really be able to feel in our bodies what resonates, and or the lesson, and or what they're reflecting back to us about ourselves? And so it's so beautiful, and this is what set in for me. So that's Goddess Retreats. Again, this was the whole letting go of my old identity and really starting to pick up on these new seeds being planted of who I'm becoming and how I want to show up in the world as this new version. I didn't really fully see it then, okay? So keep in mind, this is hindsight. I'm looking back and now I just can't see it. So now, moving on to pivotal, transformative, for real moment is just not randomly, but bopping into the store called Myra Penaloza. And Myra is a designer based out of Bali. I had no idea. I think I had seen a really cute, like, jumpsuit of some sorts on Instagram. And of course, Instagram picking up the fact that I was in Bali, I started to see more of them. And then I just happened to see the store, wander in, and oh my God, insert like the most beautiful pivot and everything that I was asking for in this travel. So I go in, I'm just browsing, and I was really drawn to this color. The color is like burnt orange, but they called it Harvest Moon, kind of like a rust color. And so I see this beautiful play suit, and I noticed the name of it was the Kundalini play suit. So Kundalini is a theme that had been surfacing my world ever since I had moved to Chicago, and maybe a little bit before while I was in Nashville. So that just caught my attention. So I was like, And it had a nice little plunge. Your girl loves a nice plunge. We're short, so we need the illusion of being taller. And it was perfect. I grab it. I go into the dressing room, and just a reminder, my body, I'm going through so many body changes. My diet is changing. I'm feeling much fuller than I have in my life. And I was hesitant. I don't even know when the last time it was that I actually tried on clothes at this point. So I go in and I put on this play suit. And I remember looking in the mirror, not ironic. I'm looking in the mirror in the dressing room, and for the first time, I loved what I saw in these clothes in this place. So I was like, oh, it felt good. It felt new, and it felt different. It felt inspiring, to say the absolute least. So my interaction with this brand and the creations of this designer, insert the letting go of old definitions and maybe even the subconscious programming that I had internalized of what beauty is, and that it isn't perfection. Well, if it's not perfection, which I knew to my core, how do I start to embody and embrace my beauty in all of its shapes, forms, seasons, sizes, right? And really seeing my body, our bodies, as art, and wearing art that externally reflects the inner radiance and glow. So I'm just vibing, checking myself out in the mirror. I just can't stop looking at myself in the mirror. Long story short, I took off the tag, paid for it, and walked out of the store wearing it. That's how good I felt in it. So I go home to where I was staying, and I was really just, I don't know, feeling inspired to write and journal. So I'm sitting at the desk. I get my laptop out in case I need to Google something. And within maybe not even an hour, drops in. The whole vision and some minor details, a starting point for what is now the Mirrored Muse. So I received the download, which was the whole intention behind even traveling. And so I'm telling you, I cannot, even to this day, disconnect this play suit from this download. They are connected 100%. And with this comes proof or evidence, is what it seems like to me, that the power of an artist, when it's intentional and the creations are flowing from a genuine, just authentic space, the power that can flow from the artist through the art to not just the consumer, but the world. It really, really expanded and opened up this curiosity and beautiful realm of, it honestly made me believe and trust that this thing that I'm being called to create, I can have some sort of impact too, right? If I can feel this putting on a piece of art designed by this woman, if I can feel that effect, maybe I can create an authentic effect in my own art form, whatever that is. So, just the whole idea of art and our bodies and beauty and being able to wear and reflect externally the inner radiance. Like, I know it sounds so silly, guys, but this changed everything. It changed everything. And then I received a download to go back, and I was specifically shown what I need to buy. And it was an investment to say the least. So I resisted it for a couple days, and then I it made too much sense. And so I go back, and then I start to make friends with the women working there, and it just became, I would visit regularly after that. And it just became a core piece of my time in Bali. So Myra Penaloza, if you're into like the linen play suits and just like comfortable but sustainable, sophisticated, elegant clothing lines, I highly recommend. And two, honestly, this idea of high vibrational fabrics. I'd always heard about this, but I thought it was BS. I was like, I'm not buying into it. It's a total marketing scam. Like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But to then step in and put on the linen and these high vibrational fabrics, which she uses in her designs, like, guys, it's a game changer. I'm telling you right now, like, tried and true. I it it's different. It hits different. It's beautiful. The feeling that comes, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. So that is the main pivotal experience of Myra Penaloza. And last but not least, I have to talk about Tantra. So this theme had been circulating also for many months leading up to the move to Chicago. I get to Chicago, I was prompted to buy a book, so I get a book about Tantra. I didn't really dive into the theme, thank God, because I really do well with just kind of showing up blindly. That way I don't have any preconceived notions, and I can truly just navigate everything with openness and curiosity. So I sign up for a 3-day retreat, and the first day was all divine feminine, followed by 2 days where it was co-ed practices. I was scared to death, okay? Absolutely scared to death. I was just nervous, didn't know what to expect. And so I show up the first day, and it's all of us women. I thrive in those spaces. So was able to warm up very, very quickly. And the facilitator, oh my God, just absolutely incredible. And the school in which put on the event, guys, absolutely incredible. I highly recommend, if you are looking to experience Tantra, learn about it, etc., in a space that is just infused with safety and integrity. Please, please, please reach out. I am more than welcome to, or more than willing to share more details, answer questions, because I cannot recommend the school enough. So I show up. The day with the women just filled me up, and it allowed me to warm up to the idea. So basically, Tantra, there's a million misconceptions out there about what it is, but at its simplest form, they describe it as the merriment of meditation and love. And Tantra for me starts to invite this letting go of shame, guilt, and just all the negative labels surrounding pleasure. And that allowed me to begin to embrace sensuality, which is a huge part of who I am as a woman, and the power of my sexual energy. Yeah, we're going to dive into it. We're going to talk about it right now. And this podcast episode is going to be a little bit longer, but just bear with me because this is so important. This is so important for both the fellas and the women listening. Fellas, it's important to hear the female experience of Tantra. And also, I encourage you, oh my God, if you're curious and it's a thing that's popping up and you feel like it's something you want to experience, I cannot recommend it enough. And ladies, I'm telling you, it changed my life, period. So, the simplest way I know how to describe this and in my experience, it completely felt like a full body homecoming back to myself. Full stop. Like, I had no idea. And if I could just bottle up my experience and just like pass it around, oh my God, what magic that would be, for real. It was such a powerful experience that I ended up signing up for an additional week-long retreat. They called it the Tantra Transformation Retreat. And yeah, it changed my life. And so within this school, one of the practices that they taught and that we did was pillow beating. So earlier I mentioned that anger was a primary emotion that had come up in Bali. And I know it sounds silly, but like I have always been one of those who, I'm just like, oh, I'm not an angry person. I don't get angry, or it takes me a lot to get angry, and that is true. That is very true. But what I think I didn't realize, what I know I didn't realize that I now do, is there was so much anger that was trapped in my body for such a long time that I just suppressed, because a lot of times it's not cute, it's not beautiful or pretty or even acceptable sometimes to be angry or to show anger. And I think the core belief that I had was I'm I'm not lovable, or I I can't be met with love in my anger. I can't be loved and be angry. So all this comes up during this retreat, which was really beautiful. So we do an exercise called pillow beating, and here's what happened. So on the most basic surface level, what the trigger was is I wasn't being chosen by a man I really wanted to be chosen by. Full stop. That, trust me, that feels as gross to say out loud as I'm sure it feels to hear, but it's the truth. So that's the most basic surface level, and it just drops right in. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Well, then I went a layer deeper, which shows me that I was really angry because I was never chosen by my own father, which is when this deep hurt and anger manifested. So many years of suppressing, numbing, and just avoiding this truth, pretending like that wasn't the case when it really was. And it was affecting all my relationships, my relationship with myself, absolutely my relationship with men. And then I decided I wanted to go even deeper. Like, what is the true root and core cause of this anger? So, to the core, what I realized is that my own soul was begging me to let go of everyone else and just choose me. Love her, love me, and be and accept all of her. Because that is the core, which everything else radiates, magnetizes, and flows from. It's the one and only love that lasts, forever in our whole life. We hear it all the time. And I had heard that. And divine timing is called divine timing for a reason, because when it sets in, it just hits different. It hits different, it connects, and there's a little shift that takes place. And this was that moment for me. And, the real love story, this is the real love story that doesn't necessarily sell well because, well, it hits too hard and close to home. And it's the ultimate mirror we can never escape ourselves. Guys, this was deep. This was so deep for me to realize, a huge realization. And then also with Tantra came this just embodiment of sensuality. This was the homecoming. This is, it felt so natural and organic. I had, I'll, I'll save the details of this for another time, but basically when I would meditate in Chicago, when I got all the time back from not working and traveling all the time with consulting, I started meditating a lot. And the meditations would turn into very just intuitively led movements and different things. And what I didn't know then that I now know, having experienced the Tantra retreats, is it was tantric. It was very tantric in essence. And so, yeah, oh my guys, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I think it's something that's so needed in a society of just lack of intimacy and physical touch. And like, it pulls us back into our own bodies, right? And pulls the focus into back to our own center, less external, more internal. And oh my God, I wish I could describe and articulate and say it the way that I experienced it. And now, yeah. So anyway, during these retreats, there was a lot of dance and just intuitive expression in an honest and authentic way. And it was like I was slowly going back and picking up pieces that I had abandoned of myself, that allowed me to come back to my femininity, the softness that I had also abandoned in the hustle of trying to prove myself, and living from this masculine way of showing up in the world. And oh my God, it was fucking liberating. It just was. Not sexualized, but sensual, slow, fluid, feminine, flowing movements. And it just, yeah, it felt like this reunion of my femininity. And it allowed me to begin to confidently take up even more space and feel good doing that, not feeling like a bother or, you know, asking for attention or any of that. No, it was just being. It's being who I am, and reclaiming my sexual power and releasing the shame that surrounds my sensuality. So I can already tell you, if you Google Tantra, sure, you're going to find all kinds of this crazy stuff out there. But my experience with this school, it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. It allowed me to come back to my own body. It allowed me to embrace all the beautiful, sensual parts that allow me to soften into my femininity. And this matters. This is a core foundational component. Thank God that happened early on in the travel, that you'll see and you'll hear how it's led to my Paris moments. And it's true. Receiving in Paris, it could not exist in the way that it has and is for me right now without Bali, without Tantra. There's no way. There's no way. And so I have to mention, this is the final point, but the whole theme around masculine safety that I experienced in these retreats. To be seen and witnessed and held by safe men, not in a sexual way, completely shifted what and how my nervous system responded or reacted in the past. That quickly began to shift through these practices. Oh my God, it was so powerful. And I'll never forget, there was a certain Kundalini practice, and I was paired with this this guy, and He said something to me that I just, whoa. He says to me, Whitney, don't hold back. This is going to be really powerful. So don't hold back. Which was the most liberating and terrifying statement I didn't know I needed to hear. For a man to tell me not to hold back was new, because I was used to, right, wrong, indifferent, and for various reasons, shrinking, being asked to be smaller, more covered up, quieter, more makeup, to ultimately to just be more masked. That's what I was used to. And now in this moment, this man is telling me, Whitney, be more you. Don't hold back, whatever you do. Oh my God, that changed me, you guys. It felt like this permission that I needed to hear. This permission slip of some sort that I needed to fully express myself as a woman. A total game changer. A total game changer. So this is just the highlight realm, if you will, of my experience in Bali. And there was a key turning point when I realized that, Whitney, as a human being living this experience, may not be in control. There may be something more powerful and larger at play here, maybe coordinating all of these not so random, very divinely choreographed and timed events that might be leading to something. And so there was a lot of energetic release that took place for me. And this part feels a little uncomfortable to talk about because I don't think, and I don't think I've heard a lot of women speak about it. But basically, I had a few experiences where I can feel in my body like energy moving, things needing to shift and be released. And so I get these little, it feels like instructions, but very intuitively, right? So I get up out of bed, and at the time, my friend was staying with me because some travel things were unfolding for her. And turns out she and I were meant to meet in Bali and hang out and spend time and get to know each other. And it was beautiful. But this was very early on, like maybe the first few nights that she had stayed. And so I go out on the balcony because I feel again like this energetic release coming. And it felt terrifying and simultaneously reassuring. I felt very surrounded by Mamu's energy, and that made all the difference. But yeah, I basically had an experience where it felt like I released a lot of sexual trauma energy, to be honest. And within a very short amount of time, my friend comes out onto the balcony, and I learn in this moment, I had no idea, that she's a very gifted, talented, what I would consider energy healer, body worker. And so she completely helps me move through all of this. And guys, I was out there for a very long time. I think at least an hour, maybe two. And I knew in this moment when all of this took place, I knew that this travel is not just a vacation. It is transcendental. Full stop. And that whatever is to come from all of this beauty that has been a long time coming and has been in process for generations was very significant and pivotal to who I'm becoming and my purpose in the world, and directly tied to what I'm creating. So it just opened my mind even more to the possibilities outside of logic and fear, just how powerful we are as human beings, especially women who carry this bridge between heaven and earth known as our womb space. Like, it's powerful. It sounds all woo and call it what you want, but it's powerful. And to have reverence for that and respect and just like to embody that, embrace that power. So, to just like how powerful energy really is, whether it be in communication with someone else, physical touch for sure, and definitely intimacy, like the relationships we have in our lives and those we closely surround us. I mean, they matter so much more than we realize and that we give attention to. So that night on the balcony, I felt like I definitely released generations of stored sexual trauma that, sure, a small portion was mine, but for the majority was not even mine. And so it's powerful. And I don't think I'm the only human going through this or to have experienced this. I think we need to talk about it more openly because I think it's part of our purpose as a generation and why we're here, especially for creators, especially for visionaries and artists. I think the releasing part in the process is the most foundational. And while, yes, it can be very painful, it brings an immense amount of peace and presence and just agency, individual power. And we can reclaim that. So there it is. That is a portion of my experience in Bali. And I just really want to drive home that, I don't think release it isn't about erasing the past. It's about integrating the lessons and wisdom. It's about making space for what's next and needs to evolve. And that was my experience for sure. And in part 2, in the next episode, I transition from Bali to Spain. And what I'll leave you with is I thought release would feel like the ending of something, but it was actually more like clearing the stage. So when my plan landed in Spain, there was for sure a blank page waiting and a full body surprise waiting for me as well that we will talk about in episode 10. Well, that was fun. I just want to pause and quickly say thank you so much for tuning in, for trusting me with your time, and for joining this moment, this mirror, this movement of remembering. If something in today's conversation lit a spark, I'd be so jazzed and honored if you passed it on by leaving a review, sending it to a friend, or maybe just bringing it into your own conversations. For now, you can connect with more inspo, reflections, resources, and our beautiful community on Instagram at The Mirrored Muse. Until next time, stay wild, stay soft, and remember, you are the muse.